Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everybody doing this morning?
Great.
Woohoo!
Good
Morning.
morning. Happy
Morning.
Saturday.
All right. Well, we were commenting just a moment ago that this is actually the last day of the month, last day of April. I can't believe it, but I think we said
May.
the same thing
May.
about, I'm sorry,
May.
May. Yeah, see how that rolls? I'm still back in April. I don't know where you guys are.
April Fools.
All right.
It's
So,
because it's 50 degrees outside in Michigan. That's why.
well,
Oh,
good
point.
point, Laurel.
ouchie,
Good
ouchie.
point. Yeah, we never know morning to morning, do we? But it is the last day of the month. We're fired up and excited. We're going to go through some really exciting docket items here. And I'm going to do a segment on something that we often hear in HealthPointe, working with clients, coaching, and that is, when we're talking about nutrition, can I get it, what I need from food alone, eating good food. Okay, so we're going to address that. I'm going to do that item. We've got Kathy that is going to do a segment on the kindness of the HealthPointe journey, the kindness of the HealthPointe journey. Super excited about that. And then we've got Laurel that is going to be doing a segment on her a recent experience, and it's kind of titled, "It's all about the daily healthy choices." So for those that have been with us in the past or have watched this on the Voices of HealthPointe YouTube channel, you know that it's part of this is about the docket items. A big part of it is about just the round robin discussions that we have post docket items. So that's where really the fun is. And we'll be here for about 60 minutes every Saturday morning. So with that, I'm going to jump right into my piece. And this is, I do want to say, I often say, any sources that I draw information from or inspiration. And the big inspiration on this, many of you have listened to the Frank Tennant audio called "It's the Source That Matters." And actually in the new global HealthPointe app, there's an audio in there that actually has two parts to it. The second part, it sounds like he might be at a conference in Hawaii. I heard some references to Hawaii. I'm not sure if I'm correct on that, but it's kind of like a part one and a part two. And it's an iconic audio, really data rich in there, and some of the citations and notes that he makes. And so I was very inspired by that. Also some recent experiences, which I will share on a screen share here, but let's get rolling. So again, isn't eating good food good enough is the title. So when people begin exploring how to improve their health, a common question comes up. Can I just get everything I need from eating food? It's a fair question. After all, in modern times, most people don't suffer from dramatic vitamin deficiencies like scurvy or rickets. These are conditions that plagued sailors and malnourished populations centuries ago. But just because someone isn't visibly sick doesn't mean they're operating at an optimal level of health. There's a big difference between surviving and thriving. A helpful comparison is education. In modern society, most people aren't illiterate, but knowing basic reading and arithmetic at a first grade level doesn't equip someone to navigate complex information, make informed decisions, or pursue an optimal and fulfilling career, job, or business. Whether through formal education or autodidactic learning, like the kind of self-teaching made available by books, podcasts, videos, and online courses, education opens doors. It expands what's possible in life. Optimal nutrition functions in much the same way. There's compelling data showing that the nutrient density of food has declined over the past century. A British analysis found that between 1940 and 1991, so we're talking only a span of 50 years, key nutrients in food dropped by 27% up to 96%. USDA data confirms the trend. Between 1963 and 2001, calcium in broccoli dropped by nearly 50%, and iron in spinach declined by over 35%. Rutgers University even found that it would take 1,938 modern tomatoes to match the iron content of a single tomato from decades past. Try try eating a couple thousand tomatoes today. Hilarious. So this isn't an argument against food. It's an argument that food quality matters and that modern produce often falls short in key areas. Some might argue they shop at local farmers markets or grow their own gardens. These are excellent practices. But even then, nutrient content isn't guaranteed. One simple, inexpensive tool that can help measure nutrient density is a Brix refractometer. And I'll be doing a screen share here in a moment, but what we'll be looking at is this guy here, this little simple little device. You can see the little lid on there, kind of like a microscope, kind of a fun device there. So the Brix refractometer, it gauges the overall concentration of compounds that correlate with nutrient richness. When applied to store-bought fruits or vegetables, it often reveals a lower score than expected, despite a vibrant appearance. That doesn't mean fresh produce is bad, but it does suggest that not all food is created equal when it comes to nourishment. And it's not just about quantity, it's about diversity. The average person's diet, even with home gardening, rarely includes a wide enough range of phytonutrients. Nutrients like lutein and zeaxanthin or anthocyanins are difficult to access year-round, yet these compounds are important for eye health, cardiovascular support, and cellular repair. By the way, those come primarily from like marigolds and bilberry and stuff like that. Clinical studies show that certain whole food-based supplements with these ingredients can outperform synthetic isolates. So the bottom line is this. The question isn't whether a person can survive on good food alone. It's whether they want to aim for survival or whether they want to aim for optimization. Just like we don't settle for a first-grade education when we have the opportunity to grow and expand, we shouldn't settle for the bare minimum when it comes to our health. True wellness may require supplementation, not because food has failed, but because our environment and modern food systems have changed. Optimal health starts by acknowledging that and choosing to do better. Okay, so let me kind of do something here that's kind of fun. A couple of things. First, there's a reference there to eye health. Firsthand story, this week was in for my annual exam at our local optometrist. She's wonderful. She's incredible. And she was commenting on my good vision, at my age. I'm 58 years old. And so it was referencing my eyesight and just asking, some questions about that. And I commented about supplementation. She knows that I'm in health and wellness coaching. And she immediately, her computer was right to her left. She immediately just hit the keyboard and she says, "What's the brand? Neutralite." And then she typed in the vision health and she was like, "Wow, look at this." And she was looking at the ingredient list. She was very knowledgeable on what the proportionality should be of one ingredient versus the other, how you shouldn't have too much fat soluble vitamins and a lot of supplements, she said, actually in her field where optometrists and so forth are recommending certain supplements, they kind of ran into trouble because you don't want too much vitamin A, for example. You have to be aware of that. And that's where having a trusted brand like Neutralite was really impressive to her. And you may wonder, did it move on to some things regarding HealthPointe? Yes, it did, with her and her staff, because they deal with a lot of type 2 diabetes driven macular issues. And pardon me while I let a bunch of people in here. So there we go. Okay. Welcome everyone that is just joining us. I am going to go into a screen share here on a second thing. So I was just commenting about the experience at the optometrist. And now I want to share a recent experience with using the Brix refractometer. So bear with me while I do a screen share here. Okay. Okay. Everybody should be seeing a screen. Anybody that's looking at their screen, first of all, don't be looking at it necessarily if you're walking and on uneven ground. But in theory, you're looking at a blue case and what's called a Brix refractometer. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right. So, and I didn't have this planned. It was interesting. The audio, Frank Tennant audio in the global app is, I think, audio, we call it orange dot because there's a lot of numbers associated, but the orange dot that's along the left-hand column, I think it's orange dot number 16 was the Frank Tennant audio. I hadn't yet listened to that in the series. And Emily and I were in at, doing our shopping, and I saw one of these guys. Oh, let me figure out why that's not changing. Okay, guys, bear with me here. Okay, there we go. All right. So one of these guys, which was not only an orange, but a blood orange. I thought, well, I'm going to buy one of those because we've talked about blood orange on this program, right? Because there's a blood orange extract that's in one of our supplement products. So I thought, well, that'll be kind of fun. And those that are seeing this, you see the barcode and you see that it starts with a number 9 and a number 4. And maybe people are familiar with that. Does anybody know what the 9 means?
Organic.
Yes, exactly. So the 9, so basically this is the best barcode you can get. Basically the 9 is organic and the 4 is like a sustainable best farming practices. So this is a 9-4 best of the best. It happened to be in Whole Foods. And so I got that orange, and then I was listening to the audio and I thought, I'm going to do a Brix test on this. So the way you do that is you take your fruit or vegetable, you create a little pulp out of the material, you put it on that lens, and then you look in the kind of microscope and look at the chart. And I want to show you what that looks like. This is literally taking a picture inside that tube, and you see where that matches up there on that Brix scale. It goes from 0 to 30, and you can see that the Brix is about 10, maybe 9.5, if everybody's seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. So then what you do is you grab the Brix chart, and let me grab that. Here's a Brix chart. And on the left-hand column, you see, the long list is just a segment of that chart, but it's going through all the vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. And you can see this screenshot shows oranges. I've got a kind of a green dot there, oranges. And then you've got 4 columns on the Brix chart. One is, the first column is poor. The second is average. The third is good. And the fourth is excellent. You would think at Whole Foods, a 9-4 barcode on a piece of fruit would be excellent, or at least good. But we were what on the Brix chart? We were a 10, like a 9.5. That's average. So what is this saying? This is saying despite being organic, again, organic doesn't mean nutrient dense. Organic means no pesticides and herbicides. But it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't even correlate with nutrient density. It's just, is there pesticides? It could be grown on any kind of dirt, and that's where the nutrients come from. So this narrative piece that I went through in terms of, can't I get what I need through eating good whole foods? Not if you want to optimize, right? So, and this, is a clear, day-old representation of that. So I thought I would nerd out with you guys on that. Let me get out of this screen and
very
apologize
nerdy,
as you.
very informative, and in a nice sanguine style.
I love it. We get the accolades from the sanguine David Dassow. Love it, love it. So yeah, so hope that was fun and informative. And if anybody else has any questions or comments, let's go around the horn. But otherwise, we'll move on to Kathy's segment.
I just want to say, when you picked an orange, you picked an excellent fruit. If you read through the HealthPointe stuff, somewhere in there it asks you to have a citrus a day. Because again, you get your bioflavonoids, you get your variety of things that maybe aren't in your berries. Your berry being extremely important would be another one that you would want to hit on your fruit choices. But I think sometimes we have a tendency to overlook our citrus. And in particular, I think grapefruit or orange in the morning is a really good choice. So just a little tidbit.
Yes, totally agree. So yeah, and I've done that, by the way, with the bricks. That is, I've done that with like carrots and all manner of things, and I have yet to get any of them come up in an excellent range. They're all poor. So yeah.
It'll be
So
interesting to do that in a farm market. You know, up in Michigan, you I'm sure I'll have a lot of farm markets open, and it might be interesting to go to a farm, right on a farm where they have a farm market. They're selling produce off their farms, and see what kind of a difference you get there.
very true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep. Because, again, like the piece was talking about, it's not railing against getting good food. We obviously promote that in HealthPointe. We're all about getting good food, but can you get it all 12 months of the year? Can you get like these certain phytonutrients that are particularly good for vision? And if you can you get those 12 months out of the year? So yeah, great point. So all right, well, we've got, go ahead.
Just real quickly, and I don't have it handy, but if you remember the Dr. Sears graph that we've shown for years and years, and they talk about having to eat 10 times more fruits and vegetables than you did 50 years ago, just because of poor farming practices. And they go through also what's interesting, they talk about the white matter, I think they call it pith, inside of your citrus. And I can tell you from firsthand, because I'm eating a lot of citrus right now. It's very, very good. But I cut into grapefruit, and it was at least a half inch, probably even more, of the white material before you could get to the actual fruit itself. And you're paying for that because it's not, the fruits are not inexpensive. And that comes from farming practices where they're trying to push harder to get more out. But the article, I'll pull that out. We can put that on the HealthPointe page, Eric.
Yeah.
Or you might.
That sounds great. Good point. Yeah, really great point. All right, Kathy, do you have a segment on the kindness of the HealthPointe journey?
Yes. So I subscribe to James Clear's weekly emails that after you read his Atomic Habits book, toward the end of the book, there's a place where you can subscribe to his weekly emails, and it's called 321. And then he always titles it whatever he's got going on in that email. And I read it on Thursday. And as soon as I read this part, it just struck a chord with me. Or no, I'm sorry, I read it yesterday. Because as soon as I read it, I was walking, I was out in the parking lot. It was actually warm enough to walk outside. And I was walking in the parking lot and I read this, and literally after I read it, that's when I texted Eric and Carol and told you, I got to share this. It just hit me so hard. So this is the quote. Okay. Well, this is the little thing that's in there. And investor Rick Berman speaks on the kindness of mastering your craft. He was interviewed, and it says, what is the kindest thing that anyone's ever done for you? Berman, our oldest son, Theo, who just turned 7, spent the first 6 months of his life in several NICUs. He was eventually helicoptered to Indianapolis at Riley Hospital for Children. And while we were living in that NICU for almost a half a year, we saw a lot of kids who passed away. Most of those kids were not as sick as Theo was. I don't know exactly why Theo survived, but I know that a major part of how he survived was because for several decades leading up to that moment, numerous nurses, nurse practitioners, respiratory therapists, doctors, surgeons had committed themselves wholeheartedly to mastering their craft. I can give you tons and tons of examples of these people. And I know that in the moment, it wasn't necessarily viewed as kindness, but maybe in some sense, the kindest thing that all of us can do is to pursue something radically that in some way is in service to others, because you just don't know how it's going to change the trajectory of human life. And so for all of those medical practitioners, none of whom I'm sure are listening to this, I owe everything to, because they gave me the gift of being Theo's dad. And the source was Invest Like the Best. So I read that and I was just like blown away. And that's when I texted you guys and I was like, I got to share. So it just hit me. It struck such a chord for me regarding my own HealthPointe journey. 7 years ago, I was diagnosed diabetic and I was told by the doctor, you need to lose weight. I knew about HealthPointe, but I hadn't done HealthPointe. I was speaking with David Dasso, my upline coach, and I said, well, I got to lose weight. And he was like, well, we've got the Proven HealthPointe program. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't really know it, and he's like, well, Chris has lost like over 100 pounds with it. I'm sure, she can coach you. And if we need some help from Carol, we can do that. So I took the chance and I shared it with my husband, Dave, because at the time he was also overweight and very unhealthy. So fast track, 7 years later, I'm 58 pounds lighter. The scale that I use that does like BMI and all those cool little scientific things, as Eric likes to term them, the nerdy things, actually says that I'm 4 years younger than what I am. It says I'm 51 and I'm 55, and I'm proud to admit that I'm 55. Nobody believes it, but the scale even now says I'm 51. I also have focused on healthy habits for this whole 7 years. And one thing, as we know, I do 10,000 steps a day consecutively. Today will be 3 years, 67 days consecutive of that journey. Now that's only been 3 years. I've been working on optimal health for 7 years. Okay. But one thing that my husband has mentioned a couple different times is he said, you really shouldn't be called the step queen. You should be called the health queen, because I have not been sick since I started HealthPointe in 2018. I was diagnosed with COVID twice. He was down and out with it both times. My mom was down and out with it both times. I was asymptomatic. I felt a little tired. Okay. So definitely the HealthPointe journey has definitely worked for me. And now I'm focusing on helping my hubby, Dave, as most of you know, regain his health again. And I have helped a few others on their health journey as well. So this quote, again, maybe in some sense, the kindest thing that all of us can do is to pursue something radically that in some way is in service to others, because you just don't know how it's going to change the trajectory of human life. It sums up my feelings for sure. It's my mantra for HealthPointe, really. And it sums up my feelings after especially attending the HealthPointe intensive training that we were blessed to attend last weekend. I mean, this time last Saturday, you couldn't pull me off the ceiling. Dave was trying and it was difficult, because I know we have the best planet on the world, and the best program on the planet. I mean, you can't. You see all the successes. We saw all the successes with Australia. We've seen all the successes with people. Chris has lost over 100 pounds and kept it off for over 10 years. Bill Wall, my gosh, I can't remember how much he's lost and how long he's done it for. I mean, there's just story after story after story of success. And the focus again is the optimal health. And so thinking about this quote again, it just reminds me of David Dasso's starfish story. And if you're not familiar with that, that's where the little boy is standing on the side of the ocean, and all these starfish washed up from the tide, and he's throwing them in one at a time. And this guy says, well, what are you doing? And he's like, you're going to think you're going to save them? And he's like, I saved that one, and it's the same thing with HealthPointe. I mean, we know what a gift we've been given, and we can share it with people, and we can't share it with everybody in the world, but the ones that we share it with, it's going to matter to them. And so what I really just want to say in closing is I just want to extremely thank David and Chris Dasso, and of course, Carol, for sharing the kindness of the HealthPointe journey with me and changing my life for the better forever. So I had to share that. So if any of you, are thinking, oh my gosh, this is tough, I don't know if I can do this, number one, you're not alone. We have this giant community, which is going to get even better with everything we learned this past weekend. And I know we're going to talk more about that in the future. But I mean, I don't know, I'm just extremely excited. And I never thought about it really in that way until I read this email. And that's why yesterday I was like, yep, I got to share. So again, thank you. Love you all.
Thank you. David, I want to turn it over to you and Chris. And you need to unmute there. And by the way, Carol, quick programming note. Carol, I had some feedback coming on your phone, so I did mute you for Kathy's piece there, but let me do an unmute to you. So. But David, over to you.
And so I'm choked up, so it's hard for me to talk after having such accolades.
Sorry.
But Larry has commented to me a phrase that I use a lot. I didn't realize I used it a lot. And that is that we are called to lift up God's children. And with the HealthPointe, there's just not a better program to try to lift up God's children and have it be a dramatic change for the rest of their life. And so it's one of the things that keeps me going during the good times and keeps me going during the bad times. And so, and as Kathy said, we have come back from the weekend and learning from the Australians and just overly excited about what we learned from them and talking about making a difference to that one. One of the stories that impacted me the most from the past weekend is when the Australian shared about one line of her business. They are in Australia, that she had started 4 people on HealthPointe in New Zealand. And 4 years later, they had 100 people on HealthPointe in New Zealand.
1,000.
Was it 1,000? Excuse me, 1,000.
Yeah.
4 years later, it was 1,000 people on HealthPointe in New Zealand. And so you just never know from planting a seed where your business will grow. What is the phrase? You can cut open an apple and you can count the seeds, but only God can take the seed, put it in the ground, and know how many apples you're going to get.
Wow.
Adios.
Love that, David. And I get it that you'd be a bit choked up on Kathy's segment there. Way to go, Kathy. David is not a morning person. He's a self-described not a morning person, and here you're choking him up already at 8 a.m. on a Saturday.
I know. I got choked up when I was prepping it last night, so I was happy I actually got through it today.
Yeah. But I love that. And David, your reference to Larry's comment, we are called to lift up God's children. And, sometimes I'm sure so many of us, we probably have 1,000 stories of this in here where, you're working with someone and just you just value the experience, when you can help somebody with their health. And when you see kind of that aha moment, that moment of hope in their eyes. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It's almost like palpable. You can almost like see it. It's like a switch that flips where it's a generative moment where they're beyond just knowing it. They're at that point where they know that they know, and they know that they've had some success, and they can see that they can do it, and that it's just a matter of time, before they hit their ultimate goal. And that look that they have is so powerful. We are coaches, we are operating businesses, and we do things for that. But I know so many of us, that's in the backdrop of our thinking when we're working with somebody and seeing those moments where their health improves. So that's my thoughts on that. Anybody else? And again, Carol, you should be unmuted now. There was just some feedback that was coming through, and I believe, but anybody else for that matter too.
Eric,
Yes.
Hank,
Oh, Hank. Good morning, Hank.
good morning. Everybody doing well?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Happy April,
Great.
according to me.
I was listening to your opener and it clicked in my brain when you mentioned tomatoes. Okay. And we know we buy these tomatoes today, big and red, but they taste horrible, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's no flavor in them and so on and so forth because the way they're grown and the soil that they use. So I says, okay, that kind of brought up a thought in my mind because recently I had some cataract surgeries. And so I had to take something to start helping my sight a little bit better. And of course, we have a product called Vision Health.
Vision health. Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but what's interesting, I started taking that Vision Health. It really helps. All right. But here's the thing that I found out. I went back to my favorite doctor, Mark McCosey, opened up his fat book here. I'm looking at it right now. And there's a section here. Now, it doesn't have to do with HealthPointe, but I know there's some guys listening in right now who are all concerned about prostate health, right? Okay. Which we have that product called our business. But then there's something called the Vision Health. And I started looking into it further. What it has in it is so helpful along with prostate health. And Dr. McCosey says that lutein and lycopene are two great products for prostate protection. And guess what's in the Vision Health? Lutein and lycopene. Okay.
Yes,
And
it is. Yeah.
good natural sources. So and then he's got a whole chart, well, not big chart, but just a few items that are great protection on your plate, he calls it. Number one is lycopene, tomatoes, okay, which we have in Vision Health. Talking about vitamin D.
Mm.
And people say, I take 1 or 2 tablets of vitamin D a day. Hello, it's so little bit. He recommends 15,000, no, I'm sorry, 10,000 vitamin D international units a day, which is 5 of those vitamin D tablets, okay? And he puts that in there on prostate health. Selenium, which is also in our double X and everything. Vitamin E, which is in our product. Let's see, what's it called? The vitamin E and
Lecithin.
lecithin. Thank you. Yes. And then the last one, the omega-3 fatty acids, of course, which we take. So just a combination of all that, it's amazing what's in our products, guys. They are the best on the marketplace. We know that from all the studies made. But when you start thinking, am I taking enough? Because, some people tell me, I take 1 or 2 of those vitamin D a day. Hello, he recommends a minimum of 5 of those a day. All right, because each one is 2,000 international units. That's 10,000 is what he recommends, minimum. So just want to share that with you. But the Vision Health does more than just for the vision. And so just think about what's in those products. You got lutein and lycopene in that Vision Health. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, because that's always a major concern for the guys. And do everything you can to protect that area. All right? I hope that helps. Have a great one.
For sure, Hank. Thank you so much. Yeah, I did not know that. So that's great information. And I was just taking a look. Yes, the lutein, which is we're talking the Vision Health here. The Vision Health product has 18 milligrams of that. And then the lycopene, as Hank was saying, from the tomatoes, 2.5 milligrams on that. So to have that be valuable for vision, which is what my optometrist was pointing out and just really enthusiastic about the ingredient list and the percentages in this product, but to know also that it has value in prostate and other, I'm sure, areas of the body as well. Thanks for that, Hank. That's
Yes.
really great information.
Side note, Chris
Yes.
and I hired or paid Dr. Vicky, who does sometimes does the explanation of Neutralite on our webcasts. And we went and saw her and interested in what things can we do to improve our cognitive health. And she eventually put together a menu of our Neutralite products that we should be taking. And one of them was vision health. And I said, I'm not here talking about my eyes. My eyes are great. And she said, there's something in vision health that's also really, really good for cognitive brain issues. So since we're talking about it, we continue to take it. And so just an extra, one more thing that vision health does.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this is a product, I mean, have we ever talked about it on here? I don't think we have. It's one of those many Neutralite lines, a very specialized lane, and here some conversation about it and look at all these additional benefits of that product. I love it.
Hey, can I jump
Absolutely.
in a quick second?
Yes, yes. Steve, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy
I want
April.
Oh man, isn't that the truth? I want to piggyback on what Hank was just saying, and he is right on the money about that. Over your years as a male, it's not unusual to see PSA numbers start to creep up as you age. And so mine has sort of creeped up a little over the past couple of years, and to the point where it was 3-4 months ago, my PSA number hit just a little above 4, and so my doctor was, well, we better keep an eye on that. And anyhow, I jumped into getting the lutein, not on his recommendation. He's interested in nutrition to some extent, but he doesn't know a lot from what I can tell. Anyhow, I started taking lutein, went back for the PSA number. It was down below 4. And that was enough to satisfy him that, oh, okay, well, we'll just keep an eye on things. So that's a regular part of my daily regimen of nutrition, is taking the lutein.
Wow.
So, I mean, there are a lot more benefits than what we thought, for that. So, yeah, it's right on the money.
Really great. Yeah. So
Well,
thank you. Go ahead.
well, as long as it's the Bever moment, I
Yes,
will
ma'am.
add my sister, obviously not a male in getting those kind of benefits, but she is 86 now. And she's been taking the Vision Health a long, long time. And she still calls it Bilberry with lutein because she doesn't like changes. At any rate, her prescription hasn't changed. She had better vision than I do. And of course, maybe that's just genetic with the eyes, but she absolutely swears there are certain things she can't take now because she has had a stroke, a mini stroke. But so she had to cut back on some things. But she said, I won't give up my vision health because she knows that has, in our family, I've had two aunts, and my mother had severe macular degeneration, and all of us girls are taking the vision health. And Gwen, my oldest sister, believes that has helped because they don't have any traces of macular degeneration in her exams and at 86. So that's a real blessing.
Wow. Wow.
That's
Yes.
can I bring up? That's a good point too, because when my ophthalmologist checked my eyes after the surgeries, he said, one good thing, you have no degeneration in your vision. So, and here I am. In 2 months, I'll be 92. Okay. So he said, that's impressive. He said, thought I'd share that
Wow.
with you.
Love it. Love it. You know, such great stuff. And it all fits in, you know, we're often on here, a number of us talk. I know, Carol, you've done a whole segment on health span versus lifespan. Boy, we're hitting the marks on that. Pam, your 86-year-old sister, Hank, effectively 92. And, you know, we know how vibrant you are, Hank. So, Pam, we don't know your sister, of course, like you do, but to be 86 and be a long-time user of that vision health product and have these types of outcomes is really, really great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. So,
Hey, Eric, I
yes,
just have
Pam.
to give you a side note that I think is kind of funny to point out how much she hates changes. Our excess focus and energy, that was rhodiola. She hates it so much that they're not saying rhodiola. She takes her new bottle, pours it into the other one, the old one that says rhodiola on it, so she can remember that that's rhodiola, because she gets all goofed up. Why'd they have to change the name?
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's your sister sounds fun, Pam, just like you and Steve. Sounds really fun.
She's a definite blessing.
Oh, that's great.
Eric, you got time for me to throw one more thing in?
Yes, for sure.
Talking about fat soluble vitamins, I want to jump over just a quick second to our advanced omega. And also, one of the things I had got into a conversation with my doctor was, well, he said, they don't know for sure blood, if the omegas will drop blood pressure. And I thought, no, I know that's not right. So I did a little research and came across a clinical study that was written up that came from the National Institute of Health. And there were 70 studies done where in every single study, the subjects took 2 to 3 grams of omega a day. And that dropped, when they did that, when it was 2 to 3 grams of omegas a day, it definitely dropped blood pressure every single study in 70 of those. So when I told him that, he he became a believer. But if people are taking omegas and they have a blood pressure concern, it needs to be, according to this the 70 different studies from the National Institute of Health, it needs to be 2 to 3 grams. Now, in our advanced omega, a daily serving is 1,500 milligrams. So that's 1.5 grams. So advanced omega is what, really is the effective one, but it's got to be 2 to 3 grams a day, which means you're taking basically double what the daily amount is recommended on the bottle. So just an FYI. Hopefully that's helpful for somebody.
So just to double click on that, Steve, you're mentioning on the dosage to get to the 2 to 3 grams, it would be in the advanced omega product, the Nutrilite advanced omega, that would be 2, say in the AM, and then 2, for example, in the PM, so a total of 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
nice.
double the recommended amount.
Right. That's great. And we've certainly heard a variety of people over time that do take significant amounts, even more than that. I'm not, none of us are diagnosing or prescribing. We're just, sharing experiences and stories. But I know, and Hank, you often referenced Dr. Emily, you are, Emily, you may want to mute there. Let me go ahead and do that. Dr. Sears is what I was saying, is someone that I know really talks about recommended dosages that he puts out on that. So yeah.
There's
Lots of omega.
also There's also, I talked to a scientist when we were over at Achievers, a reminder that this is 3 times more absorbable. It absorbs 3 times greater than our last one, which was really, really good. And so when you're taking it, your body is absorbing at a much higher efficiency rate too. So there's another big plus on taking the advanced omegas.
Hmm.
Eric, the advanced omega, each capsule is double of what the regular omega is. So in other words, like one capsule is got the same quantity of what the regular omega has for a daily serving. So it's much more powerful than just the regular omega.
Right. And that also enhances its cost effectiveness over the other omega. We should probably, just highlight that as well. Is that something that I wasn't tuned into? I believe this is, forgive me if my math is wrong, but if you look at the price on the quote regular omega versus the advanced omega, our whole topic here is on the advanced omega product. And of course, the regular omega is less per bottle than the advanced omega, but we'll call it the cost per milligram, if you want to call it that. You've got a much better value if you're taking the advanced omega. Am I hitting that about right, Steve?
Yeah, pretty much on track. It may not be exact. I'd have to look it up, but yeah, there's a cost factor that makes a big difference.
Right. Somebody was mentioning to me where they were even like, if somebody was like, look, you're just really on a budget, and then, looking at the omegas, they were like, well, cost wise, you would be better getting the advanced omega, even if you just took one, half the serving. Okay. Again, not ideal, but half that, than to get the regular. Anyhow, people can look into that. I am looking at the, because I was curious on those dosages, on the reference to the NIH study and stuff like that. And you're right. Yeah. The EPA, this is per serving size. So this is 572 milligrams, and the DHA is 428. So combined, you're essentially 1,000 right there. So excellent stuff. Hey, Laurel.
Hey there.
We'd love to hear about your daily healthy choices, and so can we cue you up if you're interested?
Yeah, well, let's see if I can get my camera on. I've been off camera because I'm pedaling on my
Yeah,
elliptical. Here we go. Okay.
there you are.
Well,
Awesome.
yeah, I had just mentioned this to Carol, and she said, "Oh yeah, you should bring that up." It's nothing scientific. I will add on to that last thing though. My son does work at Amway Corporation, and when they came out with that advanced omega, he's nerd about, nerd on steroid kind of thing. And he was looking into all the numbers because he takes those, and he went and asked one of the scientists. He goes, "Now let me get this straight. If I buy the small one, it's this price. If I buy the big one," he goes, "but they're the same thing, right?" The guy goes, "Yeah." He says, "So if somebody was on a budget," exactly what you said. He goes, they should buy the big bottle. If they're only going to take one, they should still buy the big bottle and just take one because it's less expensive." And he goes, "Right." He goes, "Well, why do you guys do that?" Of course, then they got into the business end of it because my son thought that was a dumb thing. But anyway, so that was just an add-on. So
Nice.
the thing I was going to just mention is that I have a sister-in-law who was next week is her 75th birthday, and she's had some hip replacement stuff, and we wanted to do something with her. I'm on HealthPointe, so we talked about going out to dinner. Can't do anything too active, they thought anyway. And so Al and I are members at the Henry Ford Greenfield Village. We buy an annual membership, and because we had grandkids, we also add the rides on. So what I looked into, they have a new restaurant. If you're in Michigan or if you're coming this way, it's well worth it. There's a new restaurant they just opened last year. It's more of a cafe, but it's called Stand 44. And I had read about it. They grow a lot of their own vegetables right there on the farms, and they use all local stuff. Their byline is something like local, in season, and sustainable. But anyway, so I said, well, I'd love to go try that. And this year they have uh, a guest chef every month, and they have two special entrees. Well, I kept looking at their seared salmon one. I thought, oh, we got to go. So anyway, for her birthday, then we decided, because I needed to do something that was good for me, but we wanted them to enjoy it. So we met at Greenfield Village, and we got some steps in. As it turned out, I ended up with over my 10,000 steps, but wasn't intentional. We rode the train, we did a few things like that, walked around. It was a nice day yesterday for that. And then we went in there, and that's a great restaurant. They had, everybody had something different. And mine was pretty close to what I needed for HealthPointe. And it was healthy. She had a wonderful time. She was just thrilled, and she's a kind of a chef herself. So it was really, really a nice, it was very casual, because like I say, it's like a cafe, but um I tried one of their entrees, the salmon one. And so anyway, I just, as a result, and then of course everybody wanted to get the famous custard that they have there. So I bought one for Al, and I scooped some. Allowed myself a few bites of his. I dug out the chocolate part, and I said to Carol, well, we'll see how this shakes out in the morning. But I used my Mojo keto thing, and my ketones were still going, and my glucose was fine, and I lost a half a pound. So I'm thinking, okay, well, that was all right. That was a good way to celebrate, and no damage done there. So anyway, it was just, and Carol said, well, it's all about choices. And I guess because we could have easily gone to the restaurant and just sat there the whole time and celebrated her birthday. But anyway, so that was
Oh,
just an experience.
it's so valuable. I'm sure some others will have some commentary on this, but what I'm hearing on that, Laurel. By the way, thanks for the anecdote from your son as well on the omegas. That's super cool. But what I'm hearing is, here you've got your sister-in-law in town. What's the first tenet of HealthPointe? We always joke about the first tenet of HealthPointe, according to David Dornan, is don't be weird, right? So
Yeah, right.
you wanna go have a good time, and what an amazing time, Greenfield Village, and just having that little bit of awareness of some possible choices for restaurants. I actually looked it up here. Yeah, man, and
Yeah,
you
if
know
you look
how.
at the
Go ahead.
menu online, that's helpful too, because they have it all up there.
That's right. This is your ability to just kind of like shape the experience. I mean, you're at Greenfield Village. You're over 10,000 steps in. You're having a great time, together. You're getting great food, even dipping into a little bit of a tasty treat there. But
Yeah.
and then, wow, that's awesome on the Keto Mojo. And for those that aren't familiar with that, we've unpacked that device, talk about that device that can measure not only blood sugar, but also your ketones. And so it's really great on that. How fun. Yeah, I'm getting hungry looking at this, Laurel.
Well, they got a new chef, plus the new chef starts in June. I looked him up, and I said, we better go in May, because this new chef, I forget, they tell you where they've worked and stuff, but he's more into like snacking, or meals that are more like snacks. I'm going, okay, I better go with the seared salmon. That seemed a little bit better. But anyway,
Mm.
yeah, I was glad and the weather was nice. Unlike today, where it's here at our house, it's windy, it's about 55, and we're going with the grandkids to the zoo. So that'll be another walkathon, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I wonder, do they have a stand 44 in the Detroit Zoo?
No, I'm
Probably
taking
not.
my own. I'm taking a little cooler with me to this one. So
Awesome. Awesome. And boy, I'm looking at this, and we've gotten David. I mean, you're the one that had mentioned about Hocking Hills, and Emily and I went to Hocking Hills in Ohio,
that's
and
right.
Laurel, I'm looking at this right now. And Emily, I know you're on here, and maybe your sisters are on here as well. We've got two of Emily's sisters in town, as well as her mom and dad. My in-laws are living with us, and we look for things to do. And I'm thinking, hey, Greenfield Village, it might be on our radar. I was thinking about making a run down to Ann Arbor, and I think the stand 44 might be a better choice than Zingerman's in downtown Ann Arbor.
Absolutely. You got a better chance of staying on HealthPointe, or at least coming close at that place. But, and yeah, it's open now full time. Like, not the restaurant only serves, I think, 11 to 3, but the village is now open every day. And of course, we went on a weekday, which means yesterday there were 4,500 kids there on school field trips. But we really didn't notice because, they're not going to take those kids into the restaurant to eat. They're packing their own. So it was a good day for it. So
nice. Very nice.
Anyway, I'd highly recommend it.
Fantastic. And what a great lesson, because you're in the trenches, you're in the 6-week cycles, and to hear your commentary on, daily choices and how you're able to have a great time and show your sister-in-law a great time and the whole family, and still check in with Carol and be dialed in on your
It would have been
WWW.
easy to do something different because I've been hovering around the same 1 pound for 10 days now, and I'm in that zone where I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, it worked out good. So, all right, I'll let you go. I'll get off the video here now and get off my elliptical. So,
I love
okay.
it. Love that multitasking. Thanks so much, Laurel. That was great.
Bye.
So, well, we've done it again. We've burned through Saturday morning, 60 minutes of Saturday morning here, and just going in directions that we can never really predict, but it's always wonderful, isn't it? So if there's any other last minute comments, questions, or whatever, speak up now. Otherwise, okay, that's my going once, going twice. Otherwise, we will see everyone next week, same time, same place. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Adios,
Great weekend.
everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.